What up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. Brian, lots to talk about with regards to Marvel. A Marvel potpourri. So a lot of news came out on CinemaCon regarding Marvel stuff, Avengers, Fantastic Four, a whole bunch of stuff, and another thing that happened during the week, which was, you wake up in the morning and you see what's going on, and then you see the things that have transpired, and you sort of reminisce and think about those moments that you spent with a character and how that character was able to, have an impression upon you. Avengers stuff at CinemaCon, Brian. What do we got?
So we have some comments about just sort of participation and structure, more about the chair lineup, why they did it the way they did it, who else might appear. But Kevin Feige appeared, and so as much as we sometimes give Kevin Feige grief for what he said more recently, we still pay attention when he talks. So Avengers is going to start filming this week. That's also a notable. But he described it as the focus of Doomsday is Doctor Doom on one side fighting, and this goes to the chairs for the most part, the Avengers, how they're defining it now, the Wakandans, the Fantastic Four, the Thunderbolts, and the original X-Men. So that's why the chair structure is the way it is. That's why some of the names that are absent from Avengers 5 are absent, is they are not the primary teams involved in the fight.
Yeah.
Although, so when I see that, and I'll get your reaction, I see those teams: Avengers, Wakandans, Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, original X-Men. Like, they might as well put the original X-Men in those red uniforms from Star Trek on the away team. It's like you're like, which of these teams is getting eliminated first and why? Like, it's like, well, I know it ain't the other ones. Like,
it sounds like listen, there are very few times where you can make something where there's a lot happening and make it a success. Only a few times these things are pulled off. On one hand, when we've heard the amount of characters being in a movie, we got Street Fighter, we got G.I. Joe, and then on the other hand, we got No Way Home. Right? That was a movie that we were showing lots of concerns for, and they were able to pull it off as far as telling a story and making us excited when they did the things that they did in this movie, regardless of what we knew was happening in this film and who was going to be involved. They were able to pull it off. And again, it's different with Avengers and stuff like that, because there was a lead up to a lot of the stuff. I mean, if you talk about Suicide Squad and these films where there's a lot of people in it, sometimes it work. For the most part, they don't. They don't. And now we're not naming off individuals. We're naming groups of individuals that are going to be fighting Doom. We're not talking about, we got this guy. No, we got this team, these group of people. It sounds like a lot.
sounds like a Royal Rumble.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you were talking about it.
Yeah. And Doom's in there at like number one, and he's going through all. It's like 29 down, one to go, But yeah, but
he's doing the Shawn Michaels going over the top rope and putting his foot down and coming back in and just.
So no, I agree with you. That's why I think when Kevin says that, my first interpretation is that some of these teams' participation has to be pretty small for this to, even like something like Infinity War. There weren't this many teams. There were a couple of missions, but not this many people. So he is kind of trying to give you why the chairs are the way they are. Now, we know, actually, in the aftermath, part of the reason the chairs were the way they are was money. Not everyone's contract was done. So like Haley Atwell was confirmed like this week after the chairs went out, because apparently she hadn't signed prior to the chair announcement. So they couldn't put her on there. Like, so that's part of it too. Some of these folks are playing for some cash to be in this. Now, here's someone else who was asked on the same weekend at CinemaCon, asked about this movie. Is this actor pulling a Garfield or not? Halle Berry, asked by the Associated Press if there will be a chair with her name on it for Avengers Doomsday, laughed and said, "Keep waiting because it's not going to be there." End quote. Is Halle Berry pulling a Garfield? Or did she big time them? and say, if you're gonna kill my team off in one scene, I ain't gonna participate.
I think is more the price isn't right. That's what I think. The price isn't. I don't care. For the right amount of money, she ain't gonna care if her team is getting killed off or not. It's just, I think it's more about the money ain't right, and perhaps she's asking for extraordinary amounts of money that isn't quite feasible, and they're moving on. Possibly. I don't see why I don't see what's the purpose of lying about it at this point. You know what I'm saying?
I don't either, but I don't know. I feel like the actors kind of get in that mode. I just think after the Garfield experience, I don't take any of these people totally at face value. Even when they are telling the truth, I'm sort of like, and I could see Halle Berry being the kind of actress at this point in her career who's like, I don't have time to make my hair white and get in the costume for a day so that I can be offed in one scene by Doom. Like, I'm just over it, but at the same time, to your point, I also feel like, that was the team where Kevin got his start. And there's a part of me that's like, is he really going to go to war without the whole crew? That's what part of me
It'll
is like.
It'll probably be a last minute.
Yeah, find the money for all of it, Fantastic Four. They showed some more footage. The key remains that Matt Shackman was on hand. And this was the quote, which this part I remain a huge fan of, and I think it's why the movie can work. This is very much about the spirit of the space race. It's about JFK and optimism. It's about imagining these four going into space instead of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. And this idea is that they are the most famous people in America because they're adventurers, explorers, astronauts, not because they're superheroes. And they come back, but then they're superheroes on top of that. But primarily, it's that they're astronauts and they're a family. That's right. Like, it's 100% correct if you're going to attempt this. And I applaud that description if he pulls that off.
It gives Fantastic Four a reason to be famous, and for it to be Michael Jackson famous after the fact. So it's the details that he's thinking about with regards to where this is taking place and who these people are. And to be a little bit more technical, how this is being shot, Brian.
He says, to that end, I really wanted it to feel like it was made in 1965 the way Stanley Kubrick would have made it. That's aiming high. Within reason. So then he says, I wanted a grounded version of space. No wormholes. The tech is retro future. So it's also booster rockets. Think combination of Marvel and actual Apollo 11. I think this is also key because Marvel has struggled with the CGI, especially in the space-oriented type stuff. So if the aesthetic looks like 2001: A Space Odyssey, but obviously updated for modern tech, he might have something visually. He might have something. And I continue to think that's the best hook for this movie is that everything we've seen, and apparently this was more the case of it, it looks and feels almost like original series Star Trek or Lost in Space, the original series. Like that's, or Battlestar Galactica back in the day. Like that's what this feels like. And I think that's at least worth a try. If it fails, at least they failed doing something creative and original.
Yeah, I have a lot of high hopes for this movie, Brian. I think I've stated the excitement that I have for a different look at the MCU with characters, again, that haven't worked well in the past. And the thought and visualization of what they're trying to go for with that specificity in terms of comparing it to Apollo and having that visual is, as an editor myself, when I'm visualizing something and then I'm putting it together and then it what I visualize and what I put together are in sync and that you're like, wow, this works. I think I'm excited to see what they've done with Fantastic Four. I think it's going to be, I don't want to give too much hope for the MCU but this would be a shot in the arm, I would say. This would be the epinephrine that dude was looking for in Crash with Jason Statham. It'll be that jolt that he needs to keep going.
What a reference.
You know what I'm saying?
What a reference. Shouts to Jason Statham. The working man is out right now. That guy's still doing it and never ages. And I'm convinced he was born bald. Oh, man. Last one from Shackman, which I thought I continue to beat this drum of that we need to pay attention to this movie, not just as it's on its own merits, but that this is the palette for where the MCU is going to go after Secret Wars. And so he says, we are our own universe, which is wonderful and liberating. There's really no other superheroes, no Easter eggs, no running into Iron Man or whatever. They're it in this universe. I love the interconnected Marvel universe, but we get to do something new and different. Eventually, this world will meet up with the other worlds, but for now, this is our own little corner. End quote.
Yeah, I'm fine with, again, disassociating with what MCU has done and giving us something different to take a look at and to digest. And I think it'll be welcoming. It'll be something that people who are watching it are going to be invested in while they're watching it to see how this all unfolds. And again, it's that jolt that they need. And I think they're going to get it not only with viewers, but in association with the box office.
Footage they showed confirms Sue is pregnant, which I think people suspected. We've known and suspected Franklin Richards was going to matter to this story. So apparently this footage did finally definitively show that and kind of give that away. There was a lot of focus on Reed's guilt with the sort of their initial study of Galactus somehow. Like he somehow detects the oncoming, doesn't really understand the threat, and therefore that leads to a sort of global cataclysm that he feels responsible for. He did apparently tease the surfer. So Julia Garner apparently made her first sort of appearance of some kind, warning them as the herald of what was coming.
I was looking for that thing on to see what it looks like, because if you Google, it's probably on YouTube. Someone a very, very long time ago attempted to see what a Silver Surfer movie would look like. It wasn't all that great, but the intention, I think, was it was an experiment. It was an experiment. If you Google that scene for potential Silver Surfer movie, this was done, I think, even before the Fantastic Four film came out. It was an attempt to see what would telling a story of the Silver Surfer would look like, but it's very interesting. So I was looking online to see if I saw a glimpse, and some people have said that it looks okay. It looks pretty good. So we'll see.
We'll see. But I think this movie did a nice job of they're saying the right things. We're still hopeful. We're nervous because of where we are with Marvel these days, but at least it looks different, feels different. They seem to have the right idea for how to attack this, and so we wait. But so that was there, and that was successful. Brand New Day, which draws its name from an arc in the comics, although we know in Marvel when they do that, they never adapt the comics faithfully. But Brand New Day is the title, and in that comic, Spider-Man learns to cope kind of with life without MJ, among other things, which we know this version will as well. But I think it also, I believe, has a different female antagonist than has been mentioned. And so that got people wondering, is Sadie Sink playing someone off the board potentially? But we'll see if that's in fact the case or not. But that was something I saw as part of it.
Casting her as someone outside of Mary Jane is a huge mistake.
I tend to agree with you. And maybe there's someone else playing the role too. That could also, she could be Mary Jane, and then there's someone else. But anyway, so there's it depends on how much of this storyline they're actually going to adapt. I think Menace, is that the one? Do I have that right? Yes, Menace. Lily Hollister is the antagonist in Brand New Day. And so that's got people wondering, is Sadie Sink playing Menace instead of what's been talked about?
But I mean, we're getting that connection in between Doomsday and Secret Wars for sure. What this story is still yet unknown. But Brand New Day, let's see what that happens. let's see what happens with that. I don't. There's only curiosity. There's not a lot of excitement for me. Curiosity as to what Spider-Man is now, and who he meets, and his new relationships now that he doesn't have Ned and the previous MJ. What would be interesting if, let's say, Ned, because now they're not cool, right? They're not friends anymore, not because of whatever, because of the spell. That Ned eventually still becomes the Hobgoblin, and Spider-Man has to fight him, and this dude not knowing how good friends they were. That's an interesting little twist for me.
I agree. And Ned has to become the Hobgoblin at some point in this progression. It also did confirm, as we've known for a long time, Zendaya's role is very small because of schedule conflicts. So she, with Dune Messiah having been confirmed finally, she's obligated to shoot that first and foremost at the same time. So she's in the movie, but very, very small role for Brand New Day. It also feels like I wouldn't be shocked if you start to see some cameos, some Avengers, some Doctor Strange, like stuff being put into this movie to make it more of a connective tissue towards Secret Wars as well. We have, okay, so now we're into the Marvel potpourri. I give you a choice. Do you want to do Marvel's director talking about that experience? You want to do
let's go there. Let's
Black
go
Panther?
There.
You want to do a little Finn Jones out of the where do you want to go with the funnies here?
Let's go with the Marvels.
Okay. So Nia DaCosta finally talked about her experience on the Marvels in retrospect, which still stands as the lowest grossing movie in the MCU. Man, 206 worldwide, production budget 374. That is a lot.
How do you not course correct after that? But go ahead.
So she said, quote, "It was interesting because there was a certain point when I was like, okay, this is not going to be the movie I pitched. It's not, or even the first version of the movie I shot. So that's when I realized this was now an experience, a learning curve, and it makes you stronger as a filmmaker in terms of your ability to navigate," end quote.
Oh, snap. This is 100-meter dash, and the guy realizing that he can't beat Usain Bolt and realizing what he got to do to try to beat him next time, if they ever get that chance. It wasn't what you visualized. Perhaps because of the other elements, because it was because it was out of your control.
That's what she says. Quote, "They had a date. They were prepping certain things, and you just have to lean into the process hardcore. The way they make those films is very different to the way I would make a film. So you just have to lean into the process and hope for the best. And the best didn't happen this time. But you kind of just have to trust the machine," end quote. Which a very giant way of saying, it's not my fault.
When you're just hired to do something and you're not actually being asked to participate, it's a difficult situation.
There's a whiff of the Blade troubles here, because remember, Nia DaCosta was like Brie Larson approved, because like they had a whole time, like after was Anna Boden and Ryan Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck did the first one, and they changed directors for the second one, and they had to get somebody that reportedly Brie Larson was okay with, and she signed off on Nia DaCosta's pitch. And Larson's talked about this, how she was blown away by it and blah blah blah. Like, so there's a whiff of like, hey, we did let the star swing their star power around a little bit, and then like, look what happened. We had to take the movie away from the director, try to salvage it in post, and it turned out to be a disaster. And now the director's saying, well, that's not my fault, but it just feels like this thing was doomed from the start. And yet we were being told, as you've said many times, we were being told that the gathering of the Marvels on screen was akin to the Avengers being shown in that circular shot in 2012.
Yeah. It's hard to come back from that if you say stuff like that.
You think Brie Larson is in either the next two Avengers movies, or you think there's no Captain Marvel? You think there's a recast Captain Marvel? What do you think happens?
I would, if I had to place bets, I would say it's a recast. Or is a Harrison Ford, when she's going in there, kill me, please. You know what I'm saying? That's the only way.
She gets taken
That's
out.
the only way.
Yeah, do yeah.
If you, as long as you knock me off, I'll join, because that means there's an end.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just whatever. But I wouldn't. I mean, Again, for the purposes of Rogue and being who she is, and I don't necessarily think that they'll address it now, but in the aftermath of Secret Wars and when they introduce the X-Men, that situation happens, and it won't be Brie Larson the one participating in that. And someone that we actually do like. It'd probably be like a Captain Marvel, like, oh, she's dope, and then we got to do this to her. It is what it is.
They'd be wrong for that if they like brought Brie Larson back and then they had like an alt universe Cap Marvel that we actually liked show up on screen. That'd make her look even worse on the way out. But
it is what it is. It is what it is.
All right. So then we got Ryan Coogler's got a new movie out, Sinners, but of course he always gets asked about Black Panther. He confirms the leak that Denzel gave,
okay.
Which is, he's like, quote, "I'm dying to work with Denzel, and I'm really hoping we can make it happen. I've got every intention of working with him on that movie, and as long as he's still interested, it's going to happen. He's a living legend, a great mentor, and he's all about looking out for us now," end quote. So I like I said, we've heard talk, is it a villain? We've talked about, is it like a mentor or a family member? I don't know. I mean, this makes it almost sound like it's kind of, maybe it is a new character and he just really wants to just have Denzel in the movie to say he worked with him once before he retires. But the other thing he did say, which I thought was a little bit surprising, was he was asked, how long would we have to wait for Black Panther 3? And he said, not long.
Yeah, okay.
It's coming sooner than we think, maybe. That actually got my attention a little bit. So
I think the only thing that we care about is actually Black Panther, right? That'll be the key to whatever.
Yeah.
Like storyline, I don't care right now. Are we gonna get Black Panther? And I'm not talking about Shuri Black Panther.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Let's be upfront about that. I'm talking about a Black King, Prince T'Challa, King T'Challa. Are we gonna get that? That's what I'm interested in. So if that's happening, I'm in. But if not, I don't think that they're not.
It's the son. I think it's the son. I think it's Toussaint.
Yeah.
I don't think he's doing T'Challa, but I think he's doing Toussaint. And I think they're the mantle will pass again somehow. Or they'll do it as like Shuri can have a suit of a different kind somehow, and then he's got the actual Black Panther. I don't know. Figure that out. But I do think that's coming. Lastly, just one tidbit, and then I'll get to the Finn Jones funny. I didn't know this. Vincent D'Onofrio talking about Kingpin, he said there is a rights issue to where Kingpin is not allowed to appear in a Marvel movie, can only appear in the TV universe. I did not know that. That is interesting knowledge. But he said, I'm only usable for the TV show. It's all caught up in rights, and I don't know when that would work out or if it would ever work out at all.
I'm wondering what the conversations were when they were doing Daredevil on Netflix and wanting to use the Kingpin, because that's a Marvel situation. Like, they couldn't have that conversation with Sony regarding Spider-Man, So Kingpin's involvement in that freedom to use him in Netflix is an interesting. What sort of rights are you? I don't know if it's clear what the rights are.
But so does that mean
Kingpin.
Sony? Who holds the rights then? Because Michael Clark Duncan was Kingpin in the Ben Affleck Daredevil on the big screen. So is that who holds the rights? Like, I just, when I saw it, I was like, that's really weird. But maybe it's like the Hulk, right? Where like the Hulk rights are held at Universal, which is why they can't do the standalone Hulk movie as much. So I don't know. Maybe Sony still retained Kingpin because of Spider-Man. They own Spider-Man.
Kingpin has been used outside of the Spider-Man universe, right? And has been used in Marvel pieces like Daredevil on Netflix. Was there a conversation with Sony when those things were being done? I don't know. What I'm saying is, I don't know if he may know the actual, or whoever told him that this is the answer to that or whatever. I don't know if there's anything into what they said, because I don't think they even know. I don't know if it's a rights issue. I think the decision to use Kingpin, I think, is feasible given that you've used it in other platforms, perhaps without even having a conversation with Sony, and you've used him. That is a sort of interesting situation. That's really, I don't know if there's a clear answer to that. I think it's certainly something that they're treading lightly because of the Spider-Man universe, and not necessarily that there is something behind it.
Yeah.
I think a conversation just hasn't been had to determine how to use him. And I think that was just his answer, not necessarily the answer.
All right, the last one. Finn Jones, Danny Rand from Iron Fist, begging to come back. Quote, there's a willingness for the fans to see that happen. Really? There's a lot of willingness for the fans to see that not happen as well. I'm very aware of the critiques of my character and my role in it. My response to that is, give me an effing chance, man. I'm here. I'm ready. I want to prove people wrong, so I would love to see that happen, end quote. Do you want to see it happen?
Here's the thing. We all know the history of how Iron Fist was made. There wasn't a lot of care given to the development of that show. It's been said that they only had 6 weeks to train. There wasn't a lot of prep for this. So given the prep and the proper treatment, he believes that he can give us the Iron Fist that we know. If he's acknowledging this by saying, give me another chance, meaning I messed up the first time, give me the second chance to prove you guys wrong. And I'm willing to see it. Just don't waste my time, because that's time and money for these guys. And he says, yo, listen, people learn from their mistakes. And if they're coming to you saying I can make a difference, or if I can do it the way it was supposed to be done, I'm willing to see, because I didn't think, listen, when it was first announced, I was all in. Everybody was all in until we saw the result.
Yeah.
So I think he knows what was wrong. I think most people know what was wrong. And I don't think he would be a bad Iron Fist, again, in the right hands. So he's asking for that chance. And also, he's asking for the chance because, Charlie Cox is here. Y'all bringing all these. Give me don't replace me. I know I was the worst part.
That's why I think it's funny.
Don't replace me. Give me another chance. So I get it. Iron Fist, everybody knows that wasn't well received, and everybody knows what the problem was in that series. The fact that we got even a season 2 out of that was crazy, even though there were better parts to it than Iron Fist himself. Iron Fist wasn't it.
Yeah.
So if we can get an Iron Fist where everybody's impressed and it's done well, I think everybody's for it. But it's like fans are, perhaps you did it so badly the first time, there's no reason why we want to give you a second chance, because it's going to remind us of the horribleness that we got the first time.
Yeah, I think the tough part for me is that, he got filleted by the stunt coordinators on that show, who basically said he didn't care, he didn't put in the work, he didn't train. So if you want to now, if that's what he's saying, my recommendation to him would be you should have integrated martial arts into your everyday life. You should come back with black belts in multiple disciplines before you even get the part, to be I just am capable of that stuff, because that's what's going to determine whether we actually take you seriously or not.
Your campaign to come back as Iron Fist should have began after the show ended. You should have been up to the mountains practicing fighting, being a what's it called, those monks. You already got it right, because like you said, you should already be a martial artist right now. You should be showing what Simu Liu did before Shang-Chi came out, showing off his moves. You should be giving us hope that you're doing your due diligence. You right now sounding like you're waiting to be given that second chance in order for you to be doing the things that you need to already be doing it.
Yep.
Here's my guys, give me a second chance and beating 5 guys up. I don't know. Doing something to show us, like that'd be crazy. Like going into the streets and fighting people.
I was just about to say, if you had somebody like a phone video of him actually doing it.
He barely coming out alive. Talking about, see guys, I can do it, bleeding. But hey, let's see. Let's see. Let's see.
Daniel Penny Rand. Is that too soon? Oh my god.
Let's see. I don't know what to say about that too much, but he's asking for it. But I don't know. It'll be tough. It'll be tough for the Marvel people. If they're saying what, like he didn't care, that's a big problem.
That's what's tough.
That's a big. Yeah,
that's what's tough. Yeah, that's what's tough there. All right, you want to do tidbits? Just close it out. We really have one big one. Do you have any other tidbits this week besides the big one?
The Michael Jackson thing.
Yeah, okay, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
They're doing a part 2. They're trying to break it up, and it makes sense because
yes, it does. Yeah,
the second half of his life isn't what's supposed to be shown or be
legal
done.
Problems. They got legal problems. In the third act is what we were told.
So it makes sense. The first half is the evolution of Michael Jackson. That makes sense, part 1. Because to be honest, Brian, Michael Jackson doesn't deserve one movie, just one movie. I think he lived a life that is, you can tell the story of his ascension and who he became, and then the problems afterwards, maybe. Depending on what it is, obviously you can't, you got to tread lightly in terms of what it is that you disclose. But there were a whole bunch of other problems that they can talk about. They have again, potpourri of other issues that they can sort of highlight, and not that one.
Yeah. As we said, the prior story was there's apparently a legal issue with one of his accusers from the 90s, that basically there's supposedly a legal restriction on what they can show on screen and in pop culture related to that issue. And apparently they didn't know that when they wrote this movie, and they shot the movie where that apparently was key to the story and key to the third act. So if they broke it apart, it basically would be them saying, we're going to give you what we know is legally kosher, and we got to figure out the rest before we can bring it back to the big screen.
Let's get this one movie out.
But I go back to what I said. This has been my sleeper hit of the year if it got to the big screen, just because of the stature, the mystery, the mystique around Michael Jackson, his global popularity. You got Antoine Fuqua, Training Day, directing this. You've got a nephew who looks really good as Michael Jackson, playing him. I've said, like, we've seen it, like with Bohemian Rhapsody, like when these types of biopic movies like take on a life of their own, people go. And I think him as a character, there's enough intrigue to where if this is good, this could be a real worldwide box office hit.
Another thing, Amazon moving forward with a Sylvester Stallone movie called I Play Rocky, where it's him that decides that he wants to play the titular character of that movie. And so I'm interested in that story. That story has been told quite a few times by Sylvester Stallone himself. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolved.
That story is crazy because apparently he basically watches, if you believe the tale, he watches Ali and Chuck Wepner fight in real life, and like basically sees that and writes the script for the first script for Rocky. He writes in like 4 days after that. But then as he shops it around, he has a really hard time getting people to pick it up if he's Rocky, and he just won't let it go. That's sort of the thrust of this. It's just like his quest and his belief that he needs to be Rocky Balboa and needs to bring sort of the Chuck Wepner story to life. But I mean, that story is real. I mean, that fight happened. Wepner went the distance. He got the crap beat out of him by Ali as sort of a no-name fighter, and he was standing at the end of it. And supposedly that's, Stallone just literally was inspired by that, and that the rest is history.
So again, Amazon is doing he understands it's a business, but they also, I believe, understand that in order for people to come, you have to make something interesting and great and do it well and with quality. And that's how you do it. that's how you do it. And I think they're setting an interesting trend in terms of quality filmmaking.
Agreed. Want the big tidbit for this week? I think we agree on it. It's rest in peace to Val Kilmer. Passed away at age 65. Obviously, he's had a lot of health problems the last couple of years, but this is someone who very interesting career in cinema. Obviously, touches on our genre. He's one of our Batmen. Played it only once in Batman Forever, but Batman Forever was the highest grossing movie in 1995. But he lives on in pop culture, right? This is a guy who, even though he was Batman, is probably better remembered or as much remembered for his supporting roles as for his lead roles. Yes, he was Jim Morrison. Yes, he's done stuff like that. But to me, and I think for a lot of people, he's either Iceman or he's Doc Holliday. And to me, the Doc Holliday performance is one of those that if you look at who was nominated and who won the Oscar in 93, you understand why he didn't win. That's the Tommy Lee Jones winning for The Fugitive year. And there's some like Leonardo DiCaprio for Gilbert Grape. There's some crazy good nominees. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I've ever seen a better acting job for bringing a character out of pages who no one really knows what he was like and making him into something where you're just like, I don't know where you found this or where you came up with this, but this is genius.
Yeah.
And Tombstone is a movie that had so many problems getting made, but turned out good. But that's a good movie with an amazing cast without Val Kilmer. It's a great movie because of Val Kilmer. And I don't care if you don't like Westerns. I don't care if you don't like any of the people in the movie. You need to see that movie before you die because you need to see him. It is, I can't describe it any other way if you're not familiar with the performance. It is one of my all-time favorite portrayals.
I'm one of those people who normally doesn't like Westerns, but I do watch them because of the performances and the situations, obviously. But his performance in Tombstone, I think that movie is one of those movies when it comes on TV, I'm always watching it just to see his performance, really.
Incredible. I mean, the cast is insane, right? It's like Kurt Russell, Michael Biehn, Bill Paxton, Sam Elliott, Powers Booth, Dana Delaney, Jason Priestley, like Michael Rooker, Charlton Heston. I mean, this movie has everyone in it. But he steals it from the very first scene to the end. The accent, what he says, incredible. Like, if you haven't seen the movie and you saw the news that he passed, do yourself a favor, like rent or stream Tombstone just to see him do that, because it's something you won't really see actors do much of anymore. It's a complete transformation and so many great lines. You have a shirt, right, from the movie, don't you?
Yeah, I'm in my prime. I'm in my prime. Not me. I'm in my prime. You sure look it.
Yeah. So many great lines, the way he says it. Yeah. I can't, so rest in peace. But and by all accounts was at times a difficult guy to work with. Like when he becomes Batman and starts to become a leading man, like there's a lot of stories taking him down from the 90s about like how much of a pill he was on set. He reportedly was miserable as Batman because the part was so boring, and he's watching Jim Carrey ham it up and he's watching Tommy Lee Jones ham it up, and he's like, I'm just completely limited and wasted as Bruce Wayne. But yeah, like he's one of those guys where he when he was in a movie, a lot of times he found something different. Like I'm still curious, like why The Saint didn't work, because it seems like it should have worked on paper, right, as a concept, but it didn't. I think even like Ghost in the Darkness is underrated. I think he's good in that, where like him and Michael Douglas are hunting like killer or defending a railway against killer lions in Africa. So he does a lot of stuff where I think it's like he's good in it. Like you watch him in it, you're like, oh, that's interesting. But for me, it's Doc Holliday.
And him in Heat too. And there's a movie.
How could I forget? Yeah, he's pretty twisted, but really good in Heat. Yeah,
he and obviously, and I'm sure you know, Brian, that they're doing a sort of like a prequel sequel to that movie. Or I think it's a prequel to that movie.
It's both.
Okay,
Heat 2 is a prequel and a sequel.
Yeah. Well, did he film any scenes for that or no?
No. The character of Chris Shiherlis is in the movie, and reportedly Austin Butler is playing the younger version of him.
Yes. And again, one of the highlights of Top Gun Maverick is that scene with Ice. It's like if you've seen Top Gun, the original, and you see that moment,
that's it.
Yeah, that movie did hit all the right uh notes for everyone who saw that movie. That's why it was what it was, man. That's why it was what it was. And he there's his one man show that he did about Mark Twain.
Hmm.
If you look it up on YouTube, I saw a piece of it because it started popping up. It shows him performing, and that dude is a chameleon. That dude can transform, and I think that's one of the things that made him obviously great is his ability to believe in the character that he was portraying and giving him something about him that separated him from everyone else. And I think that was his genius. And hopefully people take much more about his abilities in terms of the craft and learn about what he was able to do and how he did it. And we got to learn from the people that set the. And so we appreciate those subscribers who comment in the comment section below. And hopefully you guys continue to watch it. And we'll see you next time on Nerd Gen Report.